All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Rebecca Goldberg, and today I will be presenting to you my final defense for my senior capstone project. My capstone is titled Resi Ready, an exploration of the new post-pandemic home office. So for those of you who may not know me, I am currently a senior in the interior design program here at Rochester Institute of Technology and set to graduate this May along with the rest of the class of 2021. The reason behind my decision to choose this topic for my capstone was because, along with the majority of America's workforce, I personally was confined to my home where I had to share a very small space with both of my parents to complete daily office work during the summer of 2020 when the pandemic was at one of its higher points. Many of the problems encountered revolved around acoustics, furniture, and human wellness, which many of our extended family and friends expressed similar feelings towards as well. All of these were the driving components that inspired me to create this new desking system that would help to resolve or minimize many of the new home office problems due to the pandemic. I would like to introduce my committee for the capstone project, who have been a part of this process with me for the past year. My thesis chair is Mary Golden, who is an assistant professor here at Rochester Institute of Technology. Next, I am lucky to have Cami Hardison, who is the Director of Interiors at Rotwein and Blake Associated Architects based in New Jersey. I am also very lucky to have Judy Sturdivant, who is the owner and principal designer at Freeman Hall Design, also based in New Jersey. Lastly, I am fortunate enough to have a consultant as well, and that is Rick Snyder, who is the Global Account Manager at Herman Miller. Also, thank you to Michelle Osman for taking the time this morning to be here as the examining scholar. For this presentation today, here are some of the key points I will be addressing and talking to you all about. The thesis question will be addressed and how it is relevant to today's society. I will then discuss my research agenda from last semester, which is broken down between the literature review and the research agenda. Then I will go in depth on my creative agenda, including all progress work, and discuss the final design outcomes. And finally, I will close out this presentation with my overall project conclusion. So what does Resi Ready mean? Resi, being pulled from the word residential and pairing it with the word ready, means to be residentially ready for any situation. The pandemic forced everyone to be confined to their homes for a substantial amount of time, which is currently still happening. So enabling our homes to adapt to any situation is important now, given the circumstances, and for the future. And this takes us to the thesis question, which is, how will COVID-19's effect on the traditional workplace create demand for new flexible home office designs? The coronavirus pandemic struck the United States back in March 2020, and many individuals found themselves working from home and believed it was just a temporary solution and life would return to normal in a few weeks. Here we are, over a year later, and this problem is still disrupting daily life. A majority of people currently find themselves trying to navigate work from home in this new normal with limited access to the proper furniture and resources needed to be efficient and productive. So being able to reconfigure our work from home environment is critical as it pertains to the overall physical, mental, and emotional well-being of humans. Now we will move into my literature review and research agenda. My literature review was broken down into 4 categories, which were remote work, ergonomics and physical health, mental and emotional health, and the post-pandemic workplace. Addressing where in the home is best to work efficiently is crucial due to the physical location and size of the space. Every residency is different and can affect the placement of a functional home office. Remote work is intended to be a flexible form of working, so the space to complete that should be designed to follow that idea of flexibility as well. Ergonomics and physical health are the foundational components pertaining to job performance in the workforce. When working from home, being able to have furniture that's fully adaptable and enables the body to work in various neutral positions helps to support overall human physicality. Isolation, quarantining, and limited socialization can be extremely difficult for people when human interaction is found to be a necessity for our mental and emotional health. And the prolonged extra hours worked at home caused increased feelings of loneliness in connection to mandated isolation procedures, and has been shown to have negative impacts on human performance and productivity. However, the incorporation of biophilic responses in any environment are found to highly benefit mental and emotional health. And lastly, addressing the post pandemic workplace is critical to understand how we bring that environment into residential spaces. Letting the outside in, designing for flexibility, and prioritizing public health are three critical factors in post pandemic offices, and that can easily be implemented at home. My research agenda followed three key methods, which were case studies, white papers, and surveys. The case studies provided research information on what people have tried in regards to functional furniture and how that affected their productivity levels. The white papers addressed each theme associated with the overall Capstone project in terms of what furniture pieces are most ergonomically sound and best address human wellness. I was also able to release three public surveys that were looking to gauge findings on people's work from home experience during COVID 19, understanding human wellness in a work from home setting during COVID 19, and analyzing the cost analysis for a post pandemic home office. And the survey findings were the key components in what would drive forward the creative agenda outcomes for this capstone. What was concluded from the research agenda was that there are many advancements needed in a post pandemic home office to address human wellness and overall job productivity. This included finding the proper furniture to allow remote workers to feel comfortable and supported when completing office tasks. Also, being able to identify how to establish the work life balance in a post pandemic office setting and find ways to overall increase human health and wellness to enable more productive remote working environments. Now we're going to move into the creative agenda and discuss project progression and final outcomes. I began the creative agenda by designing the main desking system first, and then planned additional items such as add-ons, pamphlets, and construction documents. The add-ons considered for this project were a wellness guide, a wellness object, and acoustic barriers. For the purposes of this capstone project, the acoustic barrier was prioritized due to its direct interaction with the overall design of RIT. I started out by sketching the basic outline of what the desking system would look like and how it would be broken down into different parts. I wanted to stick to a very linear model and system to make this easily adaptable in a residential setting. I thought a lot about what type of hardware this system was going to use and what would work best, which we will get to in a little bit. And this system is going to run fully non-electric, be fully modular, and have an overall simple assembly process. The overall desking system itself measures out to 6 feet by 2 feet, and that's broken up into three parts, which are detailed out in the sketches. The desking system also has extension pieces if one wishes to add on some extra workspace. This then led me to material explorations and how I could break the box a little bit and incorporate some other components that would give some material contrast. The Resi-Ready desking system comes with inset mouse pad and coaster areas that are flush with the surface of the desk, but help to identify a place where someone can put their beverage or a cup of coffee or use the center of the desk however they choose in terms of computer or work setup. So here's the desking system model, which was built up in Revit. I have some different views that show you the different modular settings and how the system can be configured. You can have the entire desk up or down at a specified height, or you can just have the centerpiece raised or the centerpiece with the left or the right side. It is fully up to the user's choice if they want to use the extension pieces or not. And each leg functions on its own, so it doesn't follow a typical electric system where the legs both move at the same time, which would force the entire desk to move up and down in one piece. In terms of materials chosen and hardware for this desking system are as follows. The hardware that is used are slide and lock components, lifting mechanisms, height adjustable legs, and panel clamps. The manufacturers that these hardware components come from are Mach-it, Rockler, and Richelieu. The table legs I've chosen, which are pictured in the left-hand corner, are modular and perfect for this system because to adjust them, you just rotate the barrel on the leg, move the leg up or down to the specified height, and twist the barrel closed. So no electric power is required at all. Soundply are manufactured acoustic wood veneer panels that have naturalistic appearances. They are lightweight, impact resistant, and can be easily cut, edge banded, and mounted, making them ideal for furniture use. Acoustics are one of the biggest issues in home office environments, so this was a great solution to finding ways to absorb sound while making the desking system itself look appealing. And for the mouse pad and coaster insets, I specified cannel rubber for the mouse pad because they specialize in mouse pad sheet rubber and foam. Also, they have neoprene fabric options, which are ideal for mouse pads because they have water, heat, and stain resistant qualities that are also highly durable. For the coasters, I specified Filz felt because they are known for acoustic felt and their products pass a variety of heat and flammability tests and come in a variety of colors. These, in combination with the Soundply veneers, create material contrast for the overall desking system. Here are just a couple quick material diagrams to give you an idea of where all of these different materials and hardware pieces are going to be applied on the desking system. When I started to block out spaces on floor plans for the desking system, I was exploring a multitude of plans seen here. The spaces ranged from a studio apartment to a full office space. After discussion with my committee and Mary, we decided planning for the smallest space, which would be the studio apartment floor plan, would address the most restricted situation and therefore imply that this system could work in any environment larger than this. The minimum square footage needed for the system is 17 square feet, and the maximum is 22 square feet. And as you can see here, both easily fit in a confined space. One shows the model without the extension pieces, which is the 17 square feet, and the other one shows the model with the extension pieces added on, which gives you the 22 square feet. Upon purchasing the Resi-Ready desking system, the buyer would find this model configurations book to inspire them to get the most out of their new desk by using it in all of its forms. In total, it was discovered that the Resi-Ready desking system was able to be configured in 90 different ways. For those who want to see the configurations more close up, you can access the PDF file of the Resi-Ready model configurations book in the chat below. This pamphlet shows the buyers the adaptability of the desking system, the ergonomic features, and the opportunity to personalize their experience. The renders show the different veneers, felt options, panel applications, and surface setups that Resi-Ready offers for its users. The pamphlet also shows how the extension pieces can be attached on both sides, on one side, or on neither side, depending on the user's preference. The dual side privacy panels that were included can also be seen in the handful of options for installation on the desking system. Now I'm going to go into detail on the construction documents. And for those who want to see the document details more closely, you can access the PDF file of the construction documents in the chat below as well. These construction documents were included to aid in the desking system's design, construction, and assembly. This first sheet includes drawings of the base model with dimensions of each of the pieces. The axonometric view details out the placement of each type of hardware component on the desk as well. This sheet highlights the adjustability and overall functionality of the desking system. You can see the addition of the extension pieces and the height adjustability of the middle section as well as the legs. This sheet focuses on materiality and hardware. As I stated before, the privacy panel will be dual-sided, which you can see here. One side would be cork and the other would be felt with the opportunity to attach greenery. This addresses the need for an acoustic barrier in many home office settings, as well as incorporating biophilia, which has been proven to improve human wellness in the work environment. I was fortunate enough to receive a grant from the College of Art and Design to build a half-scale prototype of Resi Ready. I was able to have the prototype photographed and showing its multiple uses. Here you can see it with privacy panels as an office setup. The versatility of uses for Resi Ready was important to highlight. For example, the ability to use Resi Ready during non-business hours for entertaining, storage, or other personal uses. An exciting discovery was made in the process of photographing the model. Upon deconstruction of the prototype for transportation, it was realized that the middle section could function as an adjustable lap desk. This enhances the desking system's ability to become even more of a flexible working surface. One can easily use this lap desk in the comfort of their own home or take it mobile and work in a variety of remote locations and still have the support of an adjustable work surface. Upon completion of the creative agenda, it was important to summarize how the final outcome answered the initial research question. The three main responses to the research question were addressed: one, via selection for hardware that allowed the system to be fully adjustable; two, by material explorations being carried out to integrate biophilia into the design; and three, by proving the relevancy of the interior design profession through the system's ability to be its own environment in even the smallest of spaces. In conclusion, the Resi Ready desking system is a successful example in how new flexible home office designs can be achieved post-pandemic. Thank you everyone for your continued support and for taking the time to be here today. I would especially like to thank my committee, Mary, Cami, and Judy, for their constant support and guidance throughout the entirety of this capstone project. I would now like to open the floor to the examining scholar and my committee members for questions, comments, and critiques.
Mary, do we just get started?
Yes, Michelle, you can open the floor, please, with your questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. A fantastic project. I find it so interesting, your creative response to what has been the global white collar response to we're all stuck at home. And, it's certainly an issue that, at Herman Miller, we've paid quite a bit of attention to, as have I think almost every person that's been relegated to studying at their dining room table or working at their dining room table. I do have a couple of questions. First off, I'd like to say that, I really appreciate some of the, some particular components of your solution. First of all, the deep lit review, I did take a look at your paper, and, your careful attention to, all the work that's been done before. So often in design, we begin as if the world started with us. And of course, that's not the case. So I do appreciate that you've taken the time to review what others have done. Your attention to materiality is super critical. More and more, there's this notion of sustainability, of performance, and the evolution that technology is providing us in terms of, what we choose to place in our homes. And so, I find your great appreciation and attention to what each one of those materials is going to provide, besides just the look or color, is really critical. And I was glad to see you do that. Also, the attention to the scalability question, right? Larger is always easier, as we know. It's the small that is particularly challenging, and that you were able to be successful even in a confined space really speaks to the strength of your design. I do have a couple of questions. We're talking about flexibility. And I love Monahan's description of flexibility. In 2002, I wrote a paper out of UNC Chapel Hill and really defining flexibility in sort of these 4 different quadrants. One being versatility, right? That it's a desk that I can eat at, or a service that I can eat at, that I can work at, that I can what have you at, right? It doesn't change, I change. Versus modifiable, I can change it, right? Super, super quick. You can see some of those components here. Versus convertible, right? I can, change the function completely, and then the last being scalable. So I'm curious how it is you decided, because you've made choices along that set of criteria. How did you choose to land within one particular dimension or another? And because there is a range of flexibility, and when we say flexibility, it seems to me that really no one knows what we're talking about, right? It's such a nebulous expression. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about flexibility and what that meant to you in this particular design.
Yeah. So a lot of it came from personal experience. I like to use a lot of my own personal experiences in my designs, because I feel like if you've experienced it, you can really help try and solve the problem. When you listen to other people's experiences, that is the driving force. So hearing people's answers in my surveys, listening how they were sitting at a dining room table or at a kitchen table, and it's like it's one surface fits all, and it's like this is not effective. I was like, okay, so how can we fix this? How can we make it so that people can work at different heights? So I would stand in my room and I would literally move in 20 different directions and be like, okay, this is flexible, this can work. So I was trying to really, flexibility to me is that you can take one thing and turn it into 20 different things. Mm-hmm. So being able to take this basic desk and the fact that it can go in 90 different directions, to me, that is what flexibility is. Mm-hmm. And just kind of trying to break the barriers of what has already been done, because something that Mary and I had discussed way back in the beginning was, okay, there are height adjustable desks that you can bring to your home, how do we make this different? And that was the biggest driver for breaking this system up into 3 pieces and having that centerpiece be able to function on its own. Because some people, they don't want to stand up with the whole desk. Maybe they just want this little middle section just to stand up with their computer and leave everything else down more towards, lower height. So to me, that was kind of the driving force of what flexibility means to me. It's just really leaving it up to the user's choice, and the more so personalization. I wanted this system to really fit to what the person's need is, not what someone else deemed is effective for them, but basically give them a system where they can choose what is effective for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think you did a great job. I know we have a limited amount of time. I have lots of questions, as I'm sure most everyone on this call does, but I'd love to open the floor to my esteemed colleagues.
Good morning. This is Tammy. Happy to be here. Great job. And it's a great topic because it affects quite a few people. And to be honest, it not only affects, kind of office workers or whatever, but let's just say you were a seamstress and you work for a factory and that factory had to shut down for COVID. Could this unit be used for someone like that? Let's say their company provided them with the sewing machine and all of the product that they need to do. Granted, they don't have maybe the electrical part, but we're going to leave that part out of it, to support whatever equipment they're using. But could someone like that use this desk?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I believe they could, because as I said, that was part of the driver for making this easily adaptable, keeping it more of a linear system. You could easily push it up against a wall where there's a lot of outlets. You could run a power strip, plug all the equipment needs in. But if a seamstress wanted to kind of have the sewing machines up at a higher height so that she can easily reach it, and then have all her materials at a lower height so not everything was kind of piled on top of one another, this would be a great way to solve that solution. And, that was just kind of the driver for this. So, I mean, I feel that this could really work for almost anybody. And then that was another thing that we had discussed, you, Judy, and I, you know, in terms of business and non-business hours. So if they want to work off hours, they can use this, if someone wants to sew in their free time, they can use this as personal use as well. This is not strictly just office, because I know a lot of people are doing office work during non-business hours. Every time I call my parents, they're doing work at 9 o'clock at night. So, I mean, it is what it is. So.
Sure. And also just along those same lines, in terms of accessibility, all of us have challenges physically. And so, to have 90 options, that's pretty incredible. Talk a little bit about folks that may have disabilities and how this type of unit could help someone in that particular situation.
Yeah, so folks who have disabilities, something that we discovered in deconstruction of the model was how this middle piece could function as a lap desk, maybe for someone who it has to sit in a chair all day, or sits on a couch all day, and they need a work surface, and they have, this could be a surface for them where, okay, if they want to lift it up a little bit, if they have to be propped up the right way, if someone is homesick, and they're propped up in bed, they can easily use this centerpiece to kind of function how they need to. Or I know sometimes I actually think one of my survey responders actually reached out to me via email, and they said that they had a spinal injury, and they were in one of those brace things, and they had to stand up for a while, and it was really uncomfortable working for them at their desk because they were propped up. They were forced to stand up so straight that kind of leaning over was really difficult for them. So this is a system that can easily be raised all the way up for them so that it's at the same height that they need to work, and they don't have to worry about bending over to reach everything. So I think whether it's a disability or an injury, this is a system that can adapt and adjust to whatever people are going through in their life, or whatever people need to fit what's going on in their daily lives.
Excellent. Yes. And then one more comment, and going back to what Michelle was saying about finishes for a unit like this. We all live differently. I mean, we have we have eclectic design, we have colonial design, we have whatever. So without giving too many choices, the conclusion of coming up with some wood options was fabulous. The fabric options, the felt options. But what were some of the materials that you looked at, you said, no, this is absolutely a no-go?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I know we talked about also like with that mouse pad inset, you could also swap that out and do like a leather. I know you're very into leather, Cammie. That's Cammie's thing. But some of the things that we were looking at is I think I had one survey respondent reach out to me, and they were saying how they loved, it was, I don't remember exactly what the name of it was, but they were like, for those like coaster insets, can you do these cool like glass, like plastic things? And I'm just like, no. I'm like, I don't think that's as effective, because it kind of takes away from that flexibility aspect, because with this felt you can easily remove it and replace it with something else, because it addresses that customability aspect and the personalization. Wood was the big driver. I mean, I kind of looked at the wood veneers from the start, and that kind of just worked out in my favor. But I think in terms of the smaller little like fun details, the felt options, people were kind of saying, oh, what if you tried like little accents with, these like stone plastic things, or, try something fancy with, it was some sort of like fabric, and I started looking into it, but apparently it was like super highly flammable. And I'm like, if your computer overheats and this thing goes up in flames, like I don't want to be held responsible for that. So that was kind of a no-go. So that's why I was also really looking into the specifications of all of these different materials to make sure, because computer equipment can overheat very easily. So you want to make sure all of these materials are going to be able to uphold and maintain, the equipment that you're using to actually do your work as well. So.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know if Judy has any questions. I have another question. I don't know if Judy does. Perhaps she can't hear us. Well, I'm in the spirit of time. I do have another question. You, at the beginning, talked about add-ons, a wellness guide, a wellness object, and an acoustic. And the notion of, oh, she can't unmute. Mary, I don't know how we unmute. But for the moment, for the time, the notion of an add-on, I find very, very interesting, right? Because we're suggesting that it really isn't fundamental to improving the experience, right? I mean, when we think about the sort of add-on, on the one hand, it could be preference, but you're making a statement here about wellness, about flexibility, right? About the importance of acoustics, a sort of, biological wellness approach. And so I'm curious about that notion of an add-on, why you chose to make it an add-on, and what that means when you do that. Is wellness, in this case, an option, right? Is acoustic control so important, for example, that one would say, no, this is a key piece of this product. I'm taking a stand here, so I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So this was actually something that Judy brought up way back in the beginning of the project, was kind of addressing the overall quality of life and human wellness in a desking system when you're working from home. And we thought, something that I remember from previous work experience, when I worked at Rote Wine and Blake with Cami, obviously it was work, but there were like fun aspects. I remember they had this like giant inflatable like yoga balls up against the side of the office. So if you didn't want to sit in an office chair, you could easily just sit on one of those and do your work. So I thought that was a great driver. What if these desking systems came with an inflatable yoga ball with like a cool Resi Ready logo on it that people could use, if they didn't want to sit on a dining room chair or a kitchen chair, and that can help support, of human physicality, and, just kind of give them something fun, or they could, do yoga with it if they wanted to. I know everybody's not into yoga, but it was just an idea, something fun. I was trying to find ways to incorporate some fun things so that this wasn't just all work, because I feel that with this pandemic, everyone was pushed into this, like, it's all work all the time, and everything was shut down in the world, and people were like, well, there's nothing fun to do anymore. And it's like, what can you do around the house? And after a while, you don't want to watch the same thing on TV anymore. And, and gyms were closed, and people were trying to find ways to bring wellness back into their lives. So that's kind of the stand that I was taking on with trying to find these fun add-ons, so that this was a system where people were like, okay, this is something that I can order that's going to help me accomplish my office work, but it also comes with these fun things that I can do in my free time. So that's kind of the stand I was taking with that.
Mary, I apologize. I couldn't, I was not able to unmute or unvideo, so I was dying to speak, but now I'm very happy to see you now, Becca. So I think you did an incredible job from beginning to end. Your attention to detail, the way you addressed all of the different issues with regards to working at home in a pandemic, the emotional, the physical, all of the above. I'm very proud of you. Really, really proud of you. And the one question, I don't know, did we ever talk about pricing, like where this priced out? In terms, was this something that was done? I never even asked that. And
yeah, because from that cost analysis survey that I did, that was just me trying to gauge, like, kind of, because people are like, well, how expensive is this going to be? And that was also me trying to just kind of gauge, people were saving money in a sense by not having, to waste money on gas for commuting, and people weren't going out to Dunkin' every day or Starbucks, whatever you prefer, to buy a coffee every morning. People were doing stuff in their home. So I was like, okay, well, and some companies were providing stipends for their employees to buy at-home office material. So I was just trying to gauge, there were some people didn't even realize that they were actually saving money by being home. So investing in a new home office could actually be more affordable than they realize. And then looking into some of the hardware pieces, I was actually able to gauge some pricing. I know the legs that I had selected, I think they were each about like $80 a leg or something. So the 2 legs together would be about $160. And then I think the lifting mechanism was around $160. So the most expensive pieces were mostly the hardware components, because that's doing the heavy duty work. So kind of adding it all up, I couldn't see the system being more than, $500-600. But based on what I was gauging from the survey, is that people were actually saving $200-300 alone. And then a lot of companies were providing stipends that were $200-300. So right there, you almost have the full total cost that you would need. You might have to outlay $100 here, $100-200 here and there, but in the end, this is something that's probably going to help you, not hurt you. So I think it would be a wise investment to invest in Resi Ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you had, if the sky was the limit in terms of budget, personally, was there anything else that you would have added on, or done differently, or you're pretty happy?
If budget was not a limit and sky was the limit, I probably could have attempted to go like full scale with this model and just gone all out and just bought everything and just gone crazy. And maybe looked into some maybe some different materialities, maybe that were a little more expensive. Sound ply is very nice, but I know that there are other veneers that are a little more upscale, but they're a little more pricey. But then again, everyone's work situation is different. So I didn't want to go too far out of the range, because I know with COVID, a lot of people had salary cuts. So that was something that I wanted to take into consideration, where it's like, okay, COVID didn't just affect people's lives in terms of working hours. Some people were working longer hours for less money. So I was like, let's try and find something that's going to help them and not hurt them in both senses. So.
Great. Thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I have one more question, if I may.
Yeah.
When we think about remote work, you focused very much on the home experience, but then you had this delightful piece at the end about this lap desk that would be able to move. And given the mobility for that worker in that moment, I wonder, how did you think about all the other places that could be, where the work could then happen? And I wonder if you might comment on that relationship back to the primary office, right? That I have this piece, because when you talk to people who left their office, they went home on a Friday and then were told that they weren't coming back on Monday.
Yeah.
So, right, there were all these people that were left with everything at their desk. Even if they didn't have an assigned seat, but their things, right there, whatever it was left. The permissions to get back in. And so now there's been some sort of discussion of what does one do if we have this sort of ongoing pandemic or ongoing perspective where I don't know if I'm going to get to go back tomorrow.
Right.
Right. So how do you see the sort of bridge from this work here, if you might hypothesize, between home and a workplace?
Yeah. So in terms of like that middle section, because I know a lot of people, when they were told, okay, everyone go home, and then they were basically saying, you're not coming back right now. And people had to schedule time to go into the office and get their personal belongings. With a system like this, it's easily deconstructible to the point where you could probably just pack the whole thing up and bring it home with you. But if people didn't want to do that, they could easily just take that centerpiece out and be like, okay, at least now I have a working lap desk, and I could just take that with me anywhere I want to go. You could sit in your home, you could sit on the beach if that's what you want to do. You could sit in a coffee shop, although coffee shops weren't open, or if you were quarantining, if you had, parents, sick parents, and you had to go quarantine with them, you could take this with you. So it was really just trying to figure out, a big driver for this was how we can bring the office back home with us, because, for such a long time, people were, okay, here's the office and here's home. And, very few people kind of had that gap in between. And, the pandemic was basically just the biggest wake up call that was like, okay, now we're going right back to that. And people just didn't really know what to do. no one was prepared for this, and people were kind of scrambling at the last minute. And even not even just people in the workforce, students in college and high school, everybody was sent back home. This could be something, college students, we do sometimes, worker class, we're laying in our beds, we're just, log on to Zoom, log in, this could be a great resource as well, just kind of having something that can work for us as well. This is really just something that can bridge the gap, that enables you to really work anywhere at any given time. So, hopefully this is something that none of us have to experience ever again, but, in a situation where the world goes on pause again, you don't have to stress that, you can't complete your work. You can't continue doing what you've been doing your whole life. You have something that's going to support you and it's going to be there for you. So.
Thank you. Excellent work. Delightful project. I appreciate learning from you today.
Thank you so much.
One more quick point. It just occurred to me, and this is something we probably never really talked about, but was there ever a thought of some kind of canopy or, I know we're challenged in a lot of houses with, low lights from the ceiling, or, space might be an issue or whatever, but did you ever consider some type of canopy to even make you feel like you're in a harbor, or some type of, a space within a space, or would that be too much?
Yeah, I think the starting point for that was kind of having all those privacy panels, like when you have all 5 panels around the desk, so it kind of encloses the space, maybe not over it, but kind of around it.
Right.
But I thank you for bringing up that point, because I never really thought about something coming over it before, kind of fully enclosing it.
Yeah.
But that's something that I'm interested in potentially looking more into, if I, in the future, if I have some free time, to look more into this project. That could be something that, I can find some answers to and see if that's something that I can add on to this, and, kind of like the next step in this process, figuring out a way to like really fully enclose this project, and not just kind of around, but kind of really capturing and like really closing someone in, making this like a full environment within itself.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a few more minutes. Michelle, Judy, or Cami, if you have any additional questions for Rebecca, please use the time.
So where do you go from here with this project? You can, I know Capstone is going to be over, right? Is it something that you're going to continue with to try to present to people, or continue as a personal project?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've put a lot of time and effort into over the last year. And I think that, something that I made a point about was the fact that this is still going on. And, as, we're graduating and people are moving back home, people are still working from home. So I think, kind of seeing where we are now a year later, and some advancements that have been made, some things that we have figured out based on where we were a year ago, that could be something that I look into now, and kind of maybe adjust the project a little bit, or like kind of see if we can like make something else out of this. I'm definitely interested in continuing to look at this project, maybe I'm in my own personal free time, and kind of keep exploring it, because I am really invested in this. So.
And consider an outdoor version of this. So materiality that is, somewhat weatherproof. I'm not saying it'll just sit out there in the wintertime, but, certainly something that if someone has a back patio or a gazebo, or, obviously this piece could go out there on a nice day, and do its thing. But let's say you get called away and you have to do something else, and then it rains. Could it sustain itself out there? So it might be a version where you have kind of an indoor-outdoor material option. Because I know I have a coworker that during the pandemic, she was on a Zoom call sitting outside in her backyard. And at first I got mad. I was like, how can you just sit outside and enjoy this nice weather and we're trying to work? But why not?
Right. Yeah, no, that's definitely something I think more people are trying to do, is, find places to work outside. I know we as students, when we get a nice day up here in Rochester, when it's not snowing or raining or negative 10 degrees. So, we like to go outside and sit outside and, kind of maybe trying to find a way to create another version of this, like kind of like the outdoor version, or maybe find a way to hybridize the two so that it can be an indoor outdoor system is a great idea, because I know more and more people are trying to find ways to work outside. When I want to go work outside, I either have to drag a table outside or I just sit in the back of my dad's pickup truck and call it a day. So, but that's not as effective. So definitely trying to figure out a way to make this a system that can work inside and outside would be super effective. And I think that would make it even more appealing to the public eye. It would be more of a statement piece.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to build on Cammie's point about the outdoor situation, the title of your project, Resi Ready, ready for any situation. What other situations might this apply to, both persona and an environment? So I'm curious, besides that, we're seeing more and more this the notion that we might be able to work during our commutes in autonomous vehicles. So I'm curious about other sorts of settings where you might see this moving.
Yeah, maybe, I know I called it Resi Ready because everyone went home because of the pandemic, but I was also thinking, part of my survey questions was kind of gauging where you live, how many people live in your house. This could be a great example, for example, single parents who have young children. If a child gets sick, or a child is homeschooled, or a school is closed for some reason, and the kids are home, someone has to watch them. And if you don't have a caretaker or a nanny, you have to be home with them, which means, you have to take care of the kids and do your work as well. So, this could be something that functions for them as well. Or, maybe this is a system that works, for college students. It could work in, maybe even potentially finding a way for this to become adaptable for healthcare facilities, mobile units for, maybe it's like nurses or, doctors who have to move from offices to offices, maybe, if they have to, I know sometimes, doctors have to switch offices in between the day, based on, where their patients live. Maybe this is a system that can easily, be deconstructed and taken with them, and they just kind of like pop up and set up somewhere, kind of ready for any situation. If they have an appointment in one area and they have to, go an hour away to a conference or something, and they need a place to set up, this could work. Or people who attend conventions, this could be something that they set up to kind of like display their work. This could really, it doesn't just have to be in your home. It could really be anywhere. This is not just for work. It's for really the versatility of the system. It could be used for anything, whatever fits the user's need. So.
Nice job, Becca. Are there any more questions from the committee or Michelle? No?
No.
Oh, all right, great. Well, thank you. So congratulations, Rebecca. Great job. And I would like to extend a sincere thank you on behalf of RIT's Interior Design Program to Michelle Osman and our committee members, Cammie and Judy, for their valuable feedback. We are indebted to you for your thoughtful cross-examination of Rebecca's work. And I would also like to recognize and thank our moderator, Adriana Petrus, for helping us out behind the scenes. And we would, of course, like to thank you, our audience, for your attention and support. The committee and the examining scholar will now enter the breakout room for deliberations, and this completes the final oral defense for Rebecca Goldberg. You are welcome to stay on for the next presentation, which begins at 9:20. Thank you all for attending and have a wonderful day. And congratulations again, Becca.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Cammie, Judy, and Michelle, and Mary.